Thank you, everyone, for joining today's Looking Forward program. I'm your host, Jonathan Toulon, aka JT. By day, I am the Global Infrastructure Leader for Mohawk Industries. And during my free time, I'm also the president of Converged User Group. And we have a great agenda laid out, and I can't wait to hear all of the valuable information that our speakers are going to provide us today. But before we get started, look, if you're new to Converged User Group, our team will definitely follow up with you after the event. I want to explain a little bit about the Converged User Group and the community. If you're using CI and HCI technologies, aka converged infrastructure and or hyper-converged infrastructure, this is absolutely the group for you. We host different events and programming throughout the year. We also have blogs, video recaps. We do a lot of community hours due to the pandemic this year, but it has been a great experience being a part of this organization. We love to talk about our stories, our experiences as we implement these technologies. And I think it has been a huge benefit as a customer to hear other people's perspectives and also provide my perspective to help guide them as they want to introduce this technology into their organizations. So if you have any questions today during the program, please use the Q&A tool. You can also use the chat to be able to connect with the attendees from the program. Also, please be on the lookout for our survey. We really would greatly appreciate your feedback. As we make plans for 2021, we want to make sure that we're providing you information that is valuable to you and your organization as you continue to look forward for your organizations. All right, so let's get started. Today we have Anthony Linsdale. Anthony is the VP of IT for Atlantis Dubai. Thank you for joining us today, Anthony. For those who don't know, Atlantis Dubai is an entertainment destination with 2 world-class properties. One of those properties being Atlantis Dubai, which is celebrating the 12-year anniversary, and then the Atlantis Royal, which is actually opening next year. Atlantis Dubai has over 20 world-class restaurants, 3 celebrity chefs, and countless amenities. This includes a water park that they're expanding on this year, which will be one of the largest water parks in the world. So with that being said, Anthony, you've been there for 4 years now. Please tell us about the roles and responsibilities that you hold at Atlantis Dubai.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I've been here 4 years. I'm fortunate enough to lead the IT organization with 14 amazing colleagues. You know, as a result, like you mentioned, it's a destination in itself. It sits in Dubai. We're on the end of the Palm Jumeirah for those people who want to look us up. You know, I'm fortunate in terms of looking after IT, there's many different facets. We have, like you said, the water park, we have the hotel operations, and we have restaurants. So it's a high volume transactional business.
Sounds awesome. Pretty soon I'll be calling you to figure out how we can get there.
You're welcome anytime.
Oh, great. So what does your data center environment kind of look like? Is it, purely Dell EMC? Is it a mixed bag of equipment? Give us an idea.
Yeah, it's really a mixed bag, JT, to be honest with you. Hospitality has a number of niche applications. So we've consolidated over the years into a virtual environment. So we have an on-premise structure, but we also have a number of applications and services running off of the cloud. And some of those are specific applications that help hospitality businesses operate. As we go forward, obviously we want to continue that journey to look more about the cloud and to leverage the platform that we have today.
Okay, great. So why VxRail? I guess this is more of a two-part question. So why VxRail first? And how did you get to making VxRail your decision, I guess you would say?
Yeah, so how did we do that? The journey itself started back in 2017. And I think many businesses go through this. There was a moment where we needed to do a refresh in terms of our hardware, right? So we took the opportunity to look at what was best in class at that time. The hyper-converged infrastructure was, I think, relatively new, at least in this marketplace. Nevertheless, I think a property of this size needs robust systems and platforms. So we did a huge amount of research. We looked at the usual players, the HyperFlex, Cisco's, the SimpliVity with HP and Nutanix, and really kind of took our time to see what was the best fit. And the key indicators were performance. Like I mentioned, we're a high volume transactional organization, 24/7 operation, so it needed to be reliable. We needed to remove the single points of failure. So one of the key elements of us choosing hyper-converged infrastructure was the distributed storage when it comes to our databases. And eventually we zoomed in on VxRail and Dell, primarily because we were very familiar with the VM platform, and having that single pane of glass really helped data center operations team to do everything they needed. And I've always said before, we're hospitality, we're guest focused. So I needed a company that could partner with us and put us at the center of customer service. So Dell really shone when we went through the RFP process, and with our local partner, we brought it to life. And I'm very happy with what we have so far.
That's great. I'm pretty well versed in all of the technologies, specifically CI and HCI. And for me personally, it was very important to kind of get my team to understand how their roles change, right? As technology gets better, you have to evolve as an engineer and or as a leader to make sure that you're providing the proper leadership for a technology that is allowing you to innovate. So how did you help change the mindsets for your team around HCI?
Yeah, it was really to do with, listen, this is going to help us perform our jobs more efficiently, allow us to spend more time with our business partners. So therefore, we're less hunkering down in the data center, doing the break fix kind of stuff, but we're more partnering with the business to optimize their applications, look at innovative solutions that can come down and help with the whole guest journey. So the sell was really about, listen, I'm going to make your life easier. It's going to be a lot faster for us to spin up servers, easy to manage and monitor. It's a single platform. So that was really the sell. I don't think we had any, how can I say, issues when it came to people taking that on board, because of coming from a legacy environment, obviously has its challenges, and that was really the problem we were trying to fix. So the team that I had were very engaged, and I think there was just a little bit of skill up required, and working with Dell through that journey of implementation really kind of polished that knowledge base.
Great. So it sounds like it was a lot smoother process to convert the team over to supporting the HCI platform, where you might tend to get pushback when you go from legacy to HCI. But I think when people hear easier, they hear work-life balance again. So I think
that's true. Yeah, that is
right.
Very true.
Absolutely. So I guess this kind of goes into, you have a ton of hospitality applications to support your properties. I don't really know what your development looks like from that perspective, but do you have any type of development or innovation type projects around being able to utilize the HCI technology that you've purchased within VxRep?
So we do I would say we're a light development shop, right? As I mentioned, most of the hospitality systems are pretty much off the shelf. And you speak to most hoteliers and they'll be using what we call Opera PMS, property management system. But what we did was we worked with a local company called Lucid Pay, who is a developer, and they work on the blockchain platform, Hyperledger Fabric. They worked with us on a loyalty program for our F&B customers. So building an application that integrated with our point of sale system on property. So that was a good story in around how we leveraged the capabilities of the hyperconverged infrastructure, as well as an innovation around blockchain.
Okay, and maybe you can go into depth about what did it enable for your customers on the property by going to this technology?
Yeah, great question. We wanted to provide a platform for our customers who are resident. We have a pretty strong support in the resident market for our F&B. Like you said at the beginning, we have 23 restaurants, 3 signature chefs. So there's a reputation and a following within the market. So what this application enabled us to do is to give a little bit back to the customer base. Yeah, they would enroll, and we would furnish them with a discount. And it's a point scheme, right? The more you spend, the more discount you get. And so it was quick to market. Sits beautifully on our current mobile app. So if you want to go check it out, it's called Atlantis Circle. So register next time you're in Dubai, you'll get 15% discount off your F&B. So it's a win-win.
Yeah, that's great. It's interesting to finally hear a company specifically around hospitality that are utilizing blockchain for their advantage, as well as enabling their customers from a rewards perspective. Those are huge benefits to wanting to be a resident on a property for a vacation. So Anthony, give us an idea of how important IT is to the business as well as the guest experience when staying at Atlantis Dubai.
So how important is IT to Atlantis Dubai? Well, it's extremely important. We are a guest-centered organization. Everything rolls around the guest, and we partner with the business from an IT perspective to drive initiatives that help our guests have a frictionless journey. From a revenue management perspective, from a personalization perspective. So we're at the center of everything that happens in the resort.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that. Like before, companies used to look at IT as an expense, right? Versus being of true value. now technology is so important in almost every industry. You know, you're in the industry of hospitality, but now you're a premier partner for the business to help continue to grow the business. You know, my previous role at Incom, it was a fintech company. Technology drove the business, right? So now that I've moved over into manufacturing in my new role, I get a different view of it, right? You know, where manufacturing is really just getting to the point where technology is an enabler versus an expense. And now looking to become that partner that you kind of, or that partnership that you kind of have now with your business side for Atlantis Dubai. Anthony, could you give us, you know, I guess some examples of why your deployment was so successful when you look at it from a holistic approach as far as all the components that play into developing a VxRail environment?
Yeah, sure, JT. You know, I think with any complex project, it's all about the planning, right? You know, and again, I was fortunate enough to have two engineers, one managing the data center operations and one managing the network infrastructure. And having those spearhead this project was key to its success. So from the get-go, we knew what we needed from the network standpoint, but also from the server infrastructure or the VxRail node, and how those units interlinked to really maximize the platform. So yeah, I think it's really about the planning. The devil is in the detail, and I think both me and you have learned that over the years. So you know, scrutinize the vendor when they come back with the bill of materials, because you know there are things that could be missed. But you know, getting the right resources on it and just doing your due diligence, that would be my advice.
Absolutely. I mean, you make a great point. Everybody needs to be held accountable, even your own team, but also the vendor, right? Because you want to make sure you're getting everything you need for a successful deployment. That's very important. And I believe, to your point, we've all experienced real gotchas when something is missing. So thank you for that perspective. You know, as you're looking forward, what's next for Atlantis Dubai?
What's next? Well, like you said at the beginning, we have a few projects that are in the pipeline. We've got a water park expansion, which will, I guess, come to light at the end of this year, early next year. With that, what we want to do is introduce a technology, a wearable technology that removes the friction. So it's really an integrated theme park destination. So tying the resort to the theme park through a wearable device. And some of the things that we're actively discussing now are tokenization. So taking a credit card payment, tokenizing the wristband, and again, removing that friction from the customer when he or she wants to pay for services. So that's one cool thing. The other one is Atlantis, the Royal, as you mentioned. We look forward to opening that towards the end of 2021. You know, this is going to be a 795 room hotel, ultra luxury, along with 231 service departments. So huge project. We're really excited about you know, bringing that to life. And you know, we've invested in VxRail to really tie the two properties together and give us that element of redundancy between sites.
Great. So I do have a question that doesn't really revolve around technology. What is ultra luxury? That sounds like I definitely want to experience.
So you have 5-star, which you may be familiar with, but what we want to do is, you know, look at the personalization aspect. So we take your individual preferences and we tailor that experience to you. So it's just turning it up a little notch, you know.
Okay, so I'm gonna make a note on my calendar to when I need to come visit, because exactly what I need.
Absolutely.
Thank you for joining us today, Anthony. This was a great conversation. Always nice to hear the customer experience and to know that we're all in this together. as Converged user group members. Thank you for coming to share that story. I wish you nothing but success in the future as you continue to grow the business or be a partner to helping grow the business from a technology perspective. And anybody in the chat right now, feel free to reach out and ask any additional questions in the Q&A section. And feel free to reach out to member services as well if you have any additional questions.
Thank you, JT. You're welcome. It's been great speaking to you as well. And as you mentioned, any member who wants to reach out to me for questions, I'll be more than happy to assist.
Well, I'll be the first because I'm definitely trying to figure out how to get there as soon as possible.
Come on over. No problem.
This conversation was perfectly teed up by Anthony for Suzanne and Chad for the next part of our program. But before they get started, Suzanne and Chad, please tell the people who you are.
Thanks, JT. I would just want to introduce myself very quickly. My name is Suzanne Pickett. When I am not working for Dell, I am on the Converged User Group Board. My day job is to act as the Director for Infrastructure, Product Acceleration, and now Capacity Planning for Dell Technologies. Chad?
Suzanne, thank you. And JT and Anthony, what an awesome story. It makes me smile ear to ear. A, because the Atlantis is a really cool place. B, because what an awesome story. And C, it makes me happy anytime customers are getting value out of the things that we've done. So my name's Chad Sakach. I've been part of the Dell Technologies family for about 15 years now. And that included being the president of VCE and the Converged Platform and Solutions Division of Dell. I'm now part of VMware working on Tanzu, which is focused on modern applications.
Thank you, Chad. And just to say, we really do appreciate you being here today, taking the time and sharing your stories with us. I also want to just shout out back to JT and Anthony for kicking this off for us and being such a great customer. I love hearing the work that's happening with the Atlantis Dubai team and really exciting stuff, the upcoming stuff that's coming as well. So we're really excited to hear more about what's coming and your transformation as it occurs. So thank you. So Chad, I'll just pause there and we'll start to look forward just a little bit. Yeah. And I really have been eagerly anticipating having this conversation with you. One of the things that I wanted to ask everyone is if there are questions, please make sure that you're utilizing the tools within our conferencing solution here. Asking questions in the Q&A or the chat and reaching out. We're going to be happy to respond to those, and Chad and I will each get to them, and we'll also have a team of people who can help facilitate that. So please, let's make this interactive, and looking forward to everyone's participation. Before we kick off, Chad, I just kind of wanted to ask the question that I'm hearing from a lot of our customers and from people out in the industry. In your own words, what is Kubernetes? And more importantly, from an infrastructure perspective, from a converged and hyper-converged perspective, what does that mean to the person who's at the keyboard, the person who's doing the day-to-day work?
For sure. Great question, Suzanne. First things first, it's always important to understand that ideas often that sound new aren't actually that new underneath the covers. So if you're part of the Converged user community, you already believe something that I believe, which is that you should consume, not construct, the things that don't provide unique value to you. And frankly, everybody who has been a VxBlock customer, who's part of the new Converged platforms from Dell EMC, who's a VxRail or a VMware Cloud Foundation customer, you don't need to hear that from me because you believe it and you've seen the results from that. The first thing that's important to understand is Kubernetes is an extension of that idea, which is that you shouldn't construct a lot of underlying container orchestration. This Kubernetes thing is the industry standard for container orchestration and container management. But I want to even further reinforce that this is an extension of an idea that you already know as an infrastructure oriented person, somebody who's hands-on keyboard, somebody who's making infrastructure decisions. If you think about what virtualization brought, is it brought the abstraction of compute, network, and storage. And for everybody who was there part of the journey, you remember the first time you were like, what? I could have a small, image, an OVF, and a VMX file, right? The VMX file would describe this file, OVF is an image of a virtual machine. It's a Windows machine. It's going to have 2 vCPUs, and it's going to have 2 gigs of memory, and it's going to have 2 virtual NICs, and it's going to have this paravirtual SCSI adapter. That altogether wrapped up was an encapsulated abstracted virtual machine that you could run anywhere. Kubernetes is the exact same thing. So basically, it's an abstraction of compute, network, and storage. It's different that in general, it's used to describe a container versus a kernel mode virtual machine. But a container is still an infrastructure abstraction of compute, network, and storage. It's packaged together into something called an OCI compliant image, which is kind of the same thing as an OVF. It's an image that represents the container. And it also is described with a file. In this case, it's a YAML file, yet another markup language file, which is analogous to the VMX file, right? So the first thing that's important to understand is it's really just an infrastructure construct. Now, why is it relevant if it's so connected to a classic idea? The first one is that it's become a very pervasive open standard. Kubernetes is now kind of the new standard of how infrastructure is run and managed. And everybody is doing that. VMware is doing that. Azure is doing that. AWS is doing that. Google is doing that. They're all using Kubernetes as their common base layer. So the first part is it's pretty universal standard. 2, it's open sourced. The upstream Cloud Native Computing Foundation, which governs this thing, is open, which means that there's more of a community ecosystem that's rallied around it. The third thing is that it's declarative, which means it's a fancy way of saying you tell it what you want, and then the system will just make that state true over and over again. So if something changes, the system will try to reinstate it. And then the fourth thing that's very important is it's very, very API driven. So one thing that has historically not been as true about the classic kernel mode virtualization domain is people would manage it via UIs and stuff like that, and the vCenter APIs were never like super pervasively used. Kubernetes as an API can be used to describe anything. And Suzanne, I know that this is a short session, but I want to show you something.
Yeah, absolutely.
That is kind of cool.
Yeah,
so,
let's do that.
Let me just quickly share my screen here. Oh, we're going to have to come back to this later. This lab is still deploying. So
while the lab is deploying, let me ask you a quick question. So you were describing kind of when we first started out with virtualization and some of the wow factor that came with that. Mm-hmm. Now that we're using tools like Kubernetes and obviously Tanzu and VxRail, what are some of the things that people can do to stay current with their skill sets and start leveraging some of these tools, and how is that going to help them down the road, maybe with their development?
Yeah, that's a great question. And while that lab is deploying, I'm going to show you a couple of other things. Okay. The first thing that's important to understand is that this ecosystem of the CNCF, the Cloud Native Computing Foundation, may sound like it's this new domain and it's filled with all sorts of stuff that is new and foreign. But for anyone who's made an investment in themselves, their career, their technology, their infrastructure around VMware, around VxRail, around VMware Cloud Foundation, around VxBlocks, it is important to realize that this world is now embedded into the thing that you already know and use. The VMware has taken Kubernetes and built it into vSphere 7.0, which means that it is now no longer separate from, if you've made an investment in VxRail, Merry Christmas. You're going to get a VxRail update, and that update will include this new Kubernetes functionality simply by adding the licensing for the Tanzu component. So it's simple, it's easy, it's built into what you already know. So it doesn't require something massive and new. The second thing is that we're now actually the leading enterprise contributor to Kubernetes itself, which, it's surprising to a lot of people. I find that two things that we're doing that are really useful. One, we're contributing to the Kubernetes ecosystem, not alone. Google still remains a huge contributor, number one contributor by count. And then we've got other contributors, that are inside the ecosystem. It's an open ecosystem. But VMware is investing massively upstream to that community and by embedding it into our own technologies. But the other investment, which is something that everybody watching here who's curious about learning more can leverage, is this thing called the Kube Academy, which is basically amazing resources that are available for everybody. They're completely free. There's lots of expert level content. You can see, the content and curriculum that's the most popular. You can see content and curriculum that is new. Like, look at this one. This one is Introduction for Kubernetes for a Virtual Infrastructure Administrator, right? So if this is you, this is a great place to start. Tons and tons of great content right there. Kube.academy, you can't miss it. Just Google it if you can't find a link.
That's great, and I love that that's being made available to everyone, so everyone can get out there, up-level their skill sets, and start working with Tanzu and Kubernetes. I mean, there's what we're really focusing on is that value add and what our bosses are asking us to do. So I'm not sure if your lab is loaded yet, but I was wondering, Chad, do you have any examples or stories you want to tell about how Kubernetes has helped some of your customers?
Yeah, for sure. So I'll highlight a couple that I think are near and dear to my heart. Some of them are customers that were very mature with their cloud native journey. So T-Mobile uses Kubernetes along with other cloud native patterns. They use it on premises on vSphere. They use it on top of the public cloud with AWS. And it was an essential ingredient for their iPhone 12 launch. So if you're a T-Mobile subscriber, and T-Mobile's growth has been enormous over the last few years, many of their core systems that they use for ordering, updating, if you go to the T-Mobile Maps application to find out, like, do I have coverage? And you do, they're a great cell phone carrier. Do I have 5G coverage? That whole application is running on top of Kubernetes, which is one example. Another example that, again, is near and dear to my heart is a company called Pôle Emploi. It may sound strange. It's a French company. They're not really a company. They're the unemployment office. Now, the unemployment office in France is not treated the same way it is as it is in the United States. The unemployment office is viewed as an essential part of the societal fabric in France. In fact, it's really the employment office, not the unemployment office. It's where you go to find the bulk of your jobs, where people move their careers around. In fact, people use it as the LinkedIn in France. So this whole, every society is a little bit different. In their case, we're using Kubernetes to power getting people to work, which is something that I think is particularly meaningful to everybody around the world today. Again, another example would be, TD Ameritrade. TD Ameritrade, in their particular case, is using Kubernetes, and they're using it on top of VxRails. Again, in that simplified integrated deployment model. Raytheon is using it and using Kubernetes to improve how they bring military missions to life. So it's really interesting. Kubernetes is being used everywhere, at the largest enterprises, at the smallest enterprises, even though it's still early days. So if you haven't been using it yet, don't feel like you've missed the new coolness, the new hotness. But it is time to roll up your sleeves, look at the Kube Academy, and again, it's in vSphere 7. So if you upgrade, you're a VxRail customer, all you need is the Tanzu licensing.
Yeah, I love hearing that Kubernetes is really a tool to add to your tool chest for everyone from a small shop to mid-size to large enterprises, because of the ability to scale and use it where you need it. Just a real quick example, prior to my joining Dell, we had a team, a very traditional data center team that had grown organically, storage, network compute. And we also had, outside of our organization, we had DevOps teams, we had developers, and we had more software focused folks. And what we really did was, and this was prior to Tanzu, and I'll check in with them and see if they've adopted, I'm sure they have, is that we took the tool with VMware, with vRealize Automation, with Kubernetes, and we took simple provisioning for just say a VM, a Windows or Linux operating system, down from 12 weeks to about 20 minutes. So the idea here is automate those repetitive documentable tasks, and then go focus on where you can add more value, because trust me, it'll make your bosses happy.
Consume, don't construct.
Exactly.
Automate,
I love that.
Automate, manual labor. And Kubernetes and containers can take, if you've already done that with kernel mode VMs with vRealize Automation, you can take that even further, as you said, Suzanne, and deploy at large scale. The lab is now actually up and running.
Ooh,
If people want to see,
let's do a live demo.
Live demo. So I pulled this up here. This is another great resource, which is the VMware Hands-On Labs. So the VMware Hands-On Labs, are available, broadly to everybody. I can't recommend them highly enough. I remember the earliest days when, this required a lot of work to be able to get access to anything. But basically what I'm doing here is I'm connecting into a vSphere 7.0 U1 environment. And, this is home for people who are virtual, virtual machine administrators, who are virtual infrastructure operators. Now, again, the developer, Suzanne, to use your example, the developer really wants to be able to automate their requests for infrastructure without interacting with too many humans, have automated CI/CD pipelines that do stuff. But in the end, infrastructure is very, very important, because all that stuff, all that code needs to run somewhere. What we're doing here is we're basically bringing up the thing that people know, use, and love, which is vCenter. And we've added Kubernetes to it natively. And here it comes. You can see that I've got my vCenter instance here. I've got this one particular region that's got 3 vSphere hosts, ESX hosts. But the thing that's new is we've added in these Kubernetes constructs. Again, they're not like bolted on, they're built right in, like namespaces. So namespaces are a Kubernetes construct that are familiar to a developer. And then, for example, inside this particular namespace, I've got a Kubernetes cluster, and this Kubernetes cluster has got 3 members in it. As I deploy workloads, and really your developer would be doing this, they'd be deploying pods, which is a container grouping that's analogous to a kernel mode VM. But again, one thing that I think is cool about this is it's highlighting, this is built into what you already know. It leverages the skills you already have. The other thing that's cool is that we didn't just layer in Kubernetes, it's actually folded in. We re-architected vCenter and ESX, where the same Kubernetes API that the devs love for containers can be used actually with kernel mode VMs as well. And so Kubernetes, remember at the beginning I was saying one thing that's cool is it's becoming the new standard of infrastructure. And it's true now for all of your on-premises stuff with vSphere 7 Update 1, as well as the public clouds. Here, what we're doing is we're making that same infrastructure automation work for the new world of containers and for the world that is running the bulk of the business today, which are kernel mode VMs. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, and I think too, just being able to consume the tool how you want and need to consume it and administer it is key. It's key to everyone working together and being successful. So on that note, I know that one of my big focus areas is to transform some of our traditional infrastructure teams into product teams. And we're creating new product team structures and new service areas, and we're delivering for our customer. And I'm just curious, do you have any thoughts or opinions on what you think would be the best or a way that people can start modernizing their team structures to create those more balanced teams, if you will?
Yeah. So by the way, you know, again, resources are amazing, and so much information is out there for us to consume. So Cube Academy was one, hands-on labs are another. Here, there's a book recommendation. So you're describing something which is a transition from project orientation to product orientation. And there's a great book, I believe the author's name is Mick Kirsten, called From Project to Product. It's highly recommended.
Okay,
I got a lot of value out of it. What it's describing is that, you know, the traditional world of most people, certainly in the world of infrastructure, is operating in short cycles of project-oriented planning and execution. But it's inherently a very waterfall process. You drive that project kind of from beginning to end. You're trying to get all of the requirements up front and then, you know, deliver over the life cycle of the project. And projects are often measured in 6, 12, you know, multi-year month periods, sometimes multi-year periods. When you have the person that's responsible for a platform have a product orientation, they think of themselves as a product manager, they're orienting all their decisions on a daily basis that are driven around basically an iterative product management philosophy. And they're bringing their users closer in to defining what is needed. Rather than going on about it, you know, I can say read Mick Kirsten's Project to Product. It's a great book. You'll get a lot out of it. And I think that one of the things that is very interesting and compelling about that is that, again, it's an extension of consume, don't construct, right? You know, so this idea that says, even though it may be possible to make a optimization at the nth degree at this point, a product manager is going, if that change doesn't incrementally make the thing that I'm taking to market, providing to my users better, I'm not going to do it. And they're looking at it through the lens of the whole product. Again, when I'm using the word product here, it doesn't have to be like a widget. It can be things like the developer platform, right? So most customers have a developer platform. It has a name, you know, Atheris is their, you know, developer platform, and it runs on their VxRail and VCF infrastructure, and it provides these services together with services that they consume from AWS, blah, 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 blah. Thinking about that from a product perspective requires a different team structure, not just a different culture. Read the book.
got it. I love it, and that absolutely passionate about that subject. It's why I came to Dell, help transform these infrastructure teams into a product methodology, including things like infrastructure as code and infrastructure as service. But really what we're delivering is that ability to consume compute, network, and storage. And so really kind of tying that back into what is Tanzu and what is Kubernetes, and laying that foundation for people to consume the services they need and unblock any kind of queue wait times, or just automating something end to end to deliver it and get it in the hands faster, because then we're all much more successful. So I love that. Makes me happy to hear you say that.
You bet. And, you know, again, just thank you for everybody for joining this session. the Converged user community is something that's close to my own heart. The VMware Tanzu team is part of the Dell Tech family. We are obsessively focused on making sure that we're making the best developer platform possible. And we're embedding it into everything that you already know. And we're making it work on the public clouds natively. So definitely dig into all those resources. There's lots of great stuff to learn.
Thank you so much, Chad, for your insights and your live demo and your recommendations. I find them personally very valuable, and I know that everyone that's joining us today. Again, if you have any questions for Chad or any of our speakers, as JT mentioned, and as we've said before, please ask. Please go ahead and put your question in the chat for us so that we can try and help wherever we can. And with that, JT, I'll just pass everything back to you.
Thanks, Suzanne, and thank you, Chad. This is super helpful and beneficial for you to break down Kubernetes. This is a huge change in technology and how we operate as organizations today. I think we definitely need to have more events just to explain it even more so people can truly understand the big benefit in going this route. But now we're transitioning to our special guest today. We are very excited to have a keynote speaker with so many accolades, but just to name a few, he's a legendary 12-year NFL star quarterback. He's also an award-winning NFL analyst, an entrepreneur, right? Evolving from an athlete to a businessman. He's also an author of a book, How to Be a Champion Every Day, which was actually released this year. So it is my honor to introduce Joe Theismann.
JT, thank you so much for that kind introduction. I want to say hello to all the Converged user group members that are joining us today. It's a great privilege to have a chance to be able to spend some time with you and be able to talk about things that are going on in this world today. I mean, it's an incredible world we're living in. I don't think any of us could have foresaw what was going to happen to us as we live through this pandemic. So many people have called this a change in our lives. I'm sort of looking at it in a different way. And I think when you think about the world of technology, this is the way to look at it. It's an opportunity. It's an opportunity for us to look at our own lives. It's an opportunity to look at our businesses. It's an opportunity to grow in so many different ways. There's words like evolve, adapt, innovation are all, I think, what we're dealing with right now. And that's what Converged wants to do. It wants to help you move forward with the technology that you have. And we have to be able to open our minds to the fact that there are so many possibilities out there. You know, in the world of football, we have an interesting scenario. During our season, everybody gets a bye week. Everybody gets a week off. But during that week, coaches don't study opponents. They study themselves. And that's really, I've looked at this pandemic and what we've been going through now for nigh on this last 8 months. And I thought to myself, this is a social bye week where we've all sort of taken and stopped what we were doing. I would venture to say that every one of us would have continued to do what we've constantly done up until this point when everything changed. Now we've been forced to be able to look at things differently. And when it comes to innovation, I think of, again, the National Football League, different innovations that have come into our game. The 46 defense of the Chicago Bears, the West Coast offense of the San Francisco 49ers, the 2 tight end offense of the Washington football team and the San Diego Charger football team. But when you think about the Bears, you think about the 49ers, you think about the Washington football team, those 3 teams have something in common. With all the innovations that they've taken on, it helped them win championships. So we have to open our mind, like I say, to innovations. We have to be able to evolve. And then we have to use the adaptations that are available to us. Like, for example, in the National Football League, we used to use signal systems, hand signals. Today, they have communicators in the helmets. They have iPads on the sidelines. Continuing to adapt and evolve. That's what we're doing. I've had some interesting situations in my life that have forced me to do that. I'll take you back to November 18th, 1985. The night my leg was broken. See, I'd been an MVP of the National Football League. I've been a world champion quarterback. I've been a Pro Bowler. I was actually in 1984, the 4th highest paid player in the National Football League at $1 million a year. Yes, I said it, $1 million a year. The kids are making so much more today, but you know what? Good for them. I think everybody should have a chance to make as much as they can and do as well as they possibly can in life. But through my awards, through the accolades, I became very self-centered. It was all about me. Joe Theismann wanted this. Joe Theismann wanted that. And then all of a sudden, November 18th, 1985 rolled around. I'll never forget that night. I remember walking into my locker, sitting down and doing the same thing that all of us have done from time to time. I stared at the wall. I was going to have a heart-to-heart. Haven't we all done that during these 8 months or so, where we've sat down and really looked at our lives, our relationships, our businesses, where we live, what are we going to do, our finances? So many things have come up. For me, I stared at that wall because we weren't doing well. I wasn't doing well. We were 4 and 5. And as I stared at that wall, I had that heart-to-heart. I said, all right, Joe, it's the Giants. It's Monday Night TV. This is going to be your opportunity, my favorite word. This is your opportunity to be able to go out and show the world that Joe Theismann that you love so much is back. Well, I started out of that locker room, and we used to have a Redskin logo. At that time, we were the Redskins. It was right below the exit sign. And for 11 years as the quarterback of that football team, I hit that logo for good luck and never said a word. But on this night, for some reason, I got up from my locker. I started out of that locker room. I hit that logo, and I uttered these words: tonight, your life's going to change, Joe. Little did I realize I was into prophecy. My world's about to change like I could never imagine. Went out on that field, 7 for 10 the first quarter, threw a touchdown pass, figure, look out, world, Joey's back. The Joe Theismann that I love so much is back. We turned to start the second quarter, and Coach Gibbs calls a flea flicker. Now, some of you may or may not understand the vernacular of football. Explain what a flea flicker is. I took the snap from center, turned around, handed to our Hall of Fame fullback, John Riggins. He started towards the line. All the Giants should be up there trying to tackle him. He stops abruptly, turns around, pitches the ball back to me. I should have a wide open receiver downfield. I didn't. I looked to my right for my safety valve. He was covered. And then I felt some pressure coming from the left side. It was Lawrence Taylor. He grabbed my left shoulder, swung around, and caught my right leg between the knee and the ankle. And right off my left shoulder, I heard this pow, pow. Sound like 2 muzzled gunshots, but actually it was my right leg breaking. I had an open compound fracture of my lower right leg. I laid there on the field, seemed like it was an eternity. It was only about 5 minutes. From the knee down, my leg was completely numb. And standing above me was Bill Parcells, the then coach of the Giants. Bill's looking down at me going, Joe, I'm sorry. I'm going, Bill, so am I. Joe Gibbs comes running out and kneels down, my head coach, whispers in my ear, Joe, for 6 years, you've been such a part of this football team. Joe, you've meant so much to this football team. Joe, this is a heck of a mess you've left me in. I said I was sorry. Within 5 minutes of breaking my leg, I've seen 2 people, and I've apologized to both of them. And then they popped me on that stretcher, started to wheel me out of that stadium, and 55,000 people stood up and gave this selfish man an ovation like he'd never heard before in his life. 55,000 people said thank you to a man who thought he needed no one. I have to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, you cannot, will not, nor will hope to be a true success in life if you think you do it by yourself. That's why Converged wants to help you as members to get better at what you do, to be more efficient at what you do. Use the technology. Open your minds to the possibilities of what could be there. You know, and when I got hurt, I wasn't a nice person. Like I said, my ego had gotten out of control. I really didn't understand business, but I was a part of something special. I was a part of a championship team. I had great teachers while I was there. I had great mentors while I was there. So to start my life over, I went back to the world of sports. And I said, what from the world of sports can I take to give me a foundation in my life going forward? And it starts with goals. It starts with goals. In every business, we write down goals. Every sport writes down goals. You see them posted in locker rooms all over the place. And then I was flying one day, interestingly enough, and I read an article. And it said that 98% of the people in this world today refuse to take a pen in hand and write down a goal. I thought, wow, in business, we write down goals. In sports, we write down goals. But yet in our own lives, we don't take the time to figure out what we want. I ask you to do this over the next 2 weeks of your life. What do you want? Personally, professionally, spiritually, and financially. Personally, professionally, spiritually, and financially. What are you looking for? Write them down. Bring them out into the physical universe. Give yourself a chance to be able to achieve the things that you want to achieve. You know, this meeting is really about you as individuals. Yes, Converge wants to help you be everything you can be, but it's about us making a decision to be what we want to be and can be. And I've had people come up to me and say, oh, Joe, you know, I write down goals. Yeah, but what price are you willing to pay to be special? I'll venture to say there isn't anybody sitting here that's average. Joel Osteen, one of my favorite people I listen to, said this about 6 years ago, said God didn't create us to be average. Average is not something, mediocre and average is something I can't believe in. I don't accept that. But what price are we willing to pay? And I think of Ronnie Lott, the great safety of the San Francisco 49ers, 8-time Pro Bowler, Hall of Famer eminently, 3-time world champion, ended the 85 season. He breaks a little finger on his hand. Doctor says, Ronnie, we operate on that. You're probably going to miss a shot at the playoffs and another ring. He said, what's my option? He said, we can amputate the upper part of your finger and you can continue to play. What do you want to do? Without hesitation, he says, cut it off. You hear this story, and I saw of all places at a golf tournament. You believe that? And I said, Ronnie, let me see your left hand. Yep, 9 2/3 fingers, top of the pinky gone. My first favorite word is opportunity. My second is why. Why would you do this? You're a 9-time Pro Bowler, 8-time Pro Bowler. You're going to be in the Hall of Fame. You got 3 world championship rings. Why? You know what he said to me? Hey, Joe, they wanted me to miss a day of work. Are you passionate about what you do? Do you love it? Yes, the world is upside down for us, but it doesn't mean we give up the passions that we have in our lives. He sacrificed a piece of himself, not figuratively, but literally, to continue to do what he loved. What price are we willing to pay to be special? So goals are very important. Attitude right now is, I think, one of the most important things. How do we approach the day? How do we approach the week? How do we approach relationships? How do we approach our jobs? Attitudes precede everything we do in our lives. Think of this. When's the last time you congratulated yourself? You got up this morning, like you have many mornings. You walked into the bathroom. You threw the light switch on. You looked in the mirror. What were the first words out of your mouth? Oh, God. You're shocked. You're surprised. Now, tomorrow morning, get up, look in that mirror and say, wow, you look terrific. Tell that person they're going to have a great day. If you see it, you can believe it. So tell them they're going to have a great day. Congratulate yourself. And enthusiasm carries us. I know these are somewhat humdrum times, and it seems like, it's Groundhog Day every day, but we have to find the enthusiasm within ourselves. We have to find the energy to go out and do the things that we want to do, that we can do with the help of others out there. And then, the other thing too is when I got hurt, I got introspective. Like I said, I was pretty full of myself, but when you get hurt, your feet get slammed down to the ground and you sort of wallow around in pity like I did. But you see, I don't believe in staying there. All of us go through the valleys of life. I have friends of mine come up to me and say, Joe, it seems like you're always up. No, I'm not always up. I go into the valley just like everybody else. I just choose not to stay there very long. If I happen to be in a valley, I'm looking for a way up the mountainside. I want to keep going. So I took a long, hard look at myself and I said, Joe, why do people think you're cocky and egotistical? And the bottom line is I believe this. If you don't believe in who you are, who's going to believe in you? But the other thing is I think there's a way of not doing it in such a boisterous way as I did. So I analyzed myself. I thought, where does the confidence come from to be able to go out and take on challenges in life? I try to anticipate situations. When I was a quarterback, I could get up under a center, look out, see a safety shaded to the right. I could anticipate the role of the defense, drop back, plant my foot, fire the ball out to the left, one-on-one coverage, anticipating the role of the defense. I try and educate myself every day. You want to be an excited student. The day you stop learning is the day you stop living. It's one of my favorite quotes. You want to be able to gain as much knowledge as you possibly can. And then Tom Watson, the founder of IBM, once said this: you work the first 8 hours of the day for survival. Everything after that is an investment in your future. You anticipate, you educate, you work hard. It allows you to open your minds to possibilities. That's what Converged wants to do. It wants to give you a chance to open your minds to the technology that's out there. It's not taking a chance. It's analyzing ways to grow and get better. I guess you could say I took a little bit of a chance, and in 1985, played the Bears this third game of the season, and they were an unbelievable football team. You know what the 85 Bears were all about. I mean, I can close my eyes today and I can see Mike Singletary and Otis Wilson and Wilbur Marshall and Richard Dent, Fridge Perry, Dan Hampton, Steve McMichael. I can see all 7 of them like they're right here. You know why? Because all day they were right there. It was an unbelievable game. But hey, we have a 10-point lead on the Chicago Bears. We'd kick the ball away from Willie Gault 3 times, fastest man in football. Now we're going to kick the ball to Willie. I'm standing on the sidelines. Ball goes through the air. I watch Willie catch it and start to run and run and run. And he winds up in our end zone, scores 10-7. But on that play, the guy that kicks off for us is also our punter. He tears a thigh muscle. We don't have a punter. Coach Gibbs is standing on the sideline going, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? I thought, what a great opportunity in life. How hard can it be to kick the ball? Drop the ball, raise your foot, boom, gone, piece of cake. Walked up to Coach Gibbs. I said, Coach, you looking for a punter? He said, I don't know what to do. I said, I can punt. He said, you can what? I said, I can punt. All I have to do is drop my foot, bang, the ball's gone, no problem. He says, fine. Next time we punt, you punt. I go running on the football field. Now I'm no longer Joe Theismann quarterback. I'm Joe Theismann punter. We get the ball on our own 13-yard line, run a running play, gain 2 yards, second 8 to our own 15. I look to the sidelines and coach is signaling in a pass. I'm going, great. Chances are we're not going to complete this because I have a personal relationship with the punter. Throw the ball into the stands. Now it's 3rd and 8 because I had that relationship. Throw the ball into the stands. Again, 2 of them incomplete. 4th and 8. Guess we have to punt. Ball's on the 15-yard line. My teammates come running in. Offense runs off. Kicking team runs on. They're saying, hey, Joe, kick it right, kick it right. I'm going, just get it back here. No problem. I'm standing on the goal line in Soldiers Field. Ball's on the 15-yard line. I'm looking up going, Mom, look at me. I'm a punter in the National Football League. How great is this? All of a sudden, I called for the snap. The ball hit my hand. Have you ever had your world go into slow motion? The instant that ball touched my hand, the roar of the crowd became a muffled sound. And I kept thinking, kick the ball right. I dropped the ball, raised my foot. Pow! Ball went flying off my foot, hung in the air. It seemed like forever. 16 yards. I'm back 15. Yes, you're being addressed by a record holder in the National Football League. I hold a record for the shortest net punt in the history of the National Football League. Now, some of you may Google this and dispute it and say Sean Landetta does. Sean actually kicked in the same place I did in Soldier Field, except he didn't touch the ball, but they gave him a -6. I don't recognize that. I recognize myself as being the worst punter in the history of the National Football League. It's one of those rare little things that you do. Now, people have come up to me all the time and said, oh, you know what, Theismann, you were a failure as a punter. Ha! Never had a failure in my life. Only an educational experience that did not go my way. I'm a cup half full guy. My mom used to tell me all the time, Joey, you go look for the good in people, you can find it. Conversely, son, you go look for the bad in people, you're probably going to find that too. I prefer to go look for the good in people. Goals and attitudes are so important. Client services are so important. Being able to take care of one another, being able to do the things we need to do. And teamwork, we're all part of a team. We're all part of the Converged team. We're all members here. We're trying to get better at what we do. It's the little things that we do in life. I asked Tom Brady one day what made him great. And I said, Tom, don't think about it. I want you to tell me. He said, the right time, the right place, the right people. With Converged, it's the right time, the right place, and the right people. Tremendous opportunity for us to be able to continue to go and grow. And I asked, as far as teamwork goes, I love that little acronym, TEAM. Together, everyone achieves more. Individuals committed to a common goal. I asked my coach, Coach Gibbs, one day, I said, what do you look for in a championship individual? Notice I didn't ask what do you look for in an individual or a player. What do you look for in a championship individual? He said, I look for 3 things. I look for character, intelligence, and ability. I said, come on, Joe, everybody wants those 3 things. He said, no, Joe, that's the order in which I look for things in people. Character first. Character is so vitally important because we're going to go through some tough times. Absolutely going to go through some tough times. I want people that are going to be there through those tough times. Intelligence. As quarterbacks, we're responsible for roughly 500 plays every week, and we change about 20% of them. So you can't be stupid and play the position. And then, oh, by the way, let's look at their physical skills, their athletic ability, character, intelligence, and abilities. Those are all things that are vitally important when it comes to being part of a championship. I had another coach that I worked with and knew very well, a guy by the name of Al Saunders. I asked Al one day, I said, what do you look for in a championship player? He said, I want to know if they're members of the Abel family. I said, Abel family? What's that? He said, are they available? Are they reliable? And are they accountable? Available, reliable, and accountable. Do you show up when you're supposed to? Are you there? One of my pet peeves in life is when people are late for meetings. All you're saying to everyone else is, I don't need to be there. I have a separate set of rules. So be available. Be reliable. If I give you a job, do the job to the best of your ability. That's what you have to do. And if things don't go right, be accountable. Don't blame it on someone else or something else. Take responsibility. Be available, be reliable, and be accountable. So you talk about goals, got to have them. Attitudes, the right one makes a difference. Taking care of clients and customers and members, very important. Teamwork is very important. But motivation, what motivates us in our lives? I drive my wife nuts. My feet hit the floor and I'm sort of an up guy all the time. As soon as my feet hit the floor, I'm gone. I'm loving life. Pride motivates us. Pride in who we are, pride in who we represent. We had a kicker I played with in the National Football League, and that's where this saying comes from. His name's Mark Mosley. We're getting ready to play the Philadelphia Eagles late November 1983. Mark is standing in front of the mirror fixing his hair. I walked up to him to do my thing to get ready. And he's sitting there and he's just fixing his hair. And I'm watching him do this. And I explained to him, Mark, it's raining outside. He said, yeah, it's raining pretty hard. I said, you plan on wearing a helmet? He said, yeah, I'm planning on wearing a helmet. I said, well, why are you fixing your hair? And he just, without ever taking his eyes off the mirror, he said, Joe, I'm proud of who I am and I'm proud of who I represent. Now hand me that hairspray. And that's always stayed with me. Take pride in who we are. Take pride in the company that we're associated with. Take pride in our family. Take pride in our work. Be proud of who you are. Recognition is so important. We all want to be recognized for what we do. We all appreciate that. John Riggins and Joe Theismann were being inducted into the Ring of Honor in 1992 at RFK Stadium. I'd been retired 7 years. John had been retired 6. I'm out on the 50-yard line like a broken down old football player should be, waiting for the ceremony to start. But John's not there. All of a sudden, out of the Redskin locker room comes John Riggins in full battle regalia. The crowd goes crazy. They're screaming and yelling and cheering. And Johnny comes up and he stands next to me. I looked at him. I said, John, you really are something. He said, yes, I am, aren't I? Then I asked him my second favorite word. Why, John? Why the get up? You'd been retired 6 years. You know what he said? I had to hear it one more time. 6 years had gone by and nobody had cheered for John. He didn't take that bow like he did against the Minnesota Vikings, but he had to hear it one more time. That pat on the back to let somebody know that they've done a good job. That little letter, handwritten, I might say, to let somebody know that they've done an excellent job. Those are all part of who we are as people. We are people who want our work, our life, our existence to be recognized, and do it with our children. Let them know they're special. Let them know that they've done incredibly well. Be with them. And you know, I know it used to be we traveled so much, we were away from home so much. Now it's different, and we'll probably get back to the road again at some point in time. But always make time to be there for the kids. Let them know that they are a priority. Let them know that they're so important. But I believe the greatest motivator of all is one simple thing: fear. Oh yeah, fear motivates us. Reggie White, God rest his soul, the great Green Bay Packer and Philadelphia Eagle, 6'7", 300 pounds, ran a 40-yard dash in 4.6 seconds. Joe Theismann can run that same distance in 5 seconds flat. Now, common sense is telling you if Reggie's chasing Joe, he's going to catch him. I'm telling you, not if fear's a motivator. It motivates us in so many different ways in our lives. Flew into Buffalo, New York one night, checked into a hotel, asked the young lady at the desk. I said, ma'am, will I go get something to eat? Said, across this field's an all-night diner. I said, great. Started out into the night, looked back, saw her smiling face. I thought, wow, she's done something nice for somebody. She feels good about it. That wasn't the case at all. She sent this idiot out across a graveyard. Hello, stupid football player. Go ahead, enjoy your dinner. I didn't care. I was hungry. Walking along, all of a sudden, bang, I fell in a grave. I'm looking up and I can't get out. I'm digging and digging and digging. I can't get out. Analytical mind of the quarterback says this: if I start yelling for help in the middle of a graveyard, who's going to come and save me? Nobody. But if I crawl over in this corner, wait till daylight, scream like heck, maybe someone will come. I'm laying there. About 20 minutes goes by. Bang! Another guy falls in next to me. He doesn't see me lying down on the side of the grave. He's digging and digging and digging, throws his hands in the air. He says, by golly, I'll never get out of here. I said, you know, I felt the same way. You've never seen anybody motivated like that in your life before. He was out. That's the old Michael Jordan, one step and gone. I don't know what motivates you. I don't know what gets you going. I know that we have tremendous opportunities in our lives to look forward. Look at the things that are going forward. Like I said, when you think of the innovations, go back to what I started the conversation with. The innovations in the world of sports, in the world of football, those innovations have made such a difference. And it's an opportunity now to look to the future, to look at what's out there for us. And that's what Converged wants to do. They want to help you look to the future. I sure appreciate the time spending all this time with everybody. And JT, I thank you again for this great opportunity.
Thank you, Joe. We really appreciate you being a part of the Converged user group as our keynote speaker. This has been a very interesting experience. I've always heard that you were a great speaker, and now I finally got to see it for myself. and it has been an absolute pleasure. So with that being said, I kind of want to transition into some Q&A. You being a professional athlete who had an amazing career, have had to endure perseverance, specifically around your career-ending injury, right? And now in these times, in this pandemic, a lot of people have experienced loss of job, loss of family, friends, just loss of the norm. This is the new normal. So what advice would you have for individuals that are struggling with just trying to persevere and see it through for the foreseeable future?
Well, you know, JT, the thing is, and I try and do the same thing as I'm going to suggest to other people. First of all, I would never tell anybody how to do something. I would make suggestions. It's like when I wrote my book, How to Be a Champion Every Day, I fashioned myself as Joey Appleseed. This isn't a how-to book to be successful. It's things that have happened in my life that have given me a chance to have an opportunity for success. But I think you have to look back at your life. Look back at the things that you did very, very well. What did you do well? That now becomes the great foundation for you going forward. I share this with people. The great pyramids are not built on their point. They're built on a great foundation and they work up to a point. And then take a look at the things that you feel like you can do better. We cannot squander these 8 months or however long it's going to take and think that we're going to go back to what you're right, normal is. We have a new normal, whatever that's going to be. But take a look at the things that you can be better at and take a look at the things that you did very well and start to move forward. You want to constantly keep moving forward, JT. You don't want to get stuck in a rut. Hey, we all go through the woe is me. Why did this happen at this time in my life? How could it possibly happen? Oh my gosh, I can't believe it's happened. Okay, you've said it. Now, move on past it. You know, in 1984, when I signed my contract, I signed a brand new 5-year contract for over $5 million. I was going to make over $1 million a year playing football at a time, like I said, where I was one of the top 4 or 5 guys in the league. And then all of a sudden my leg was broken. I had no guarantees that things were going to go forward. And I went through oh man, I can't believe it. Just signed this brand new contract. Now all of a sudden, but what I did is I went back to the world of sports. I went back to a foundation where things were successful. And I said, what can I take, just as I've shared here in this meeting? What can I take and build a new life going forward? And that's what I suggest to everybody. Go back, look at the things that you did well, and take the time to invest in your family, in your relationships, both business and personal. Take the time to look at them, because whatever it is going forward, it's not going to be like it was.
Absolutely. You definitely just renewed my enthusiasm as well. I think sometimes we get caught up in the rut of just the bad versus just being grateful for the things that we do have and how we can continue forward. So yeah, that's absolutely great advice. So since you're obviously kind of Mr. Football in a way, can you explain how technology has changed the game as it is today?
Well, first of all, if we could figure out somebody who could figure out instant replay, maybe the people, operator error is a problem with technology. Okay. The technology is good. The technology is great. It's operator error. The human eye sees one thing, it seems like, for officials, and the technology shows you something else. And sometimes those two things aren't exactly the same. I mean, the iPads, for example, on the sidelines makes a world of difference, because now we used to look at still pictures. Now they can look at a defense. Let's say the play is, the ball is snapped and the play is running. You can now see rotations of safeties from an offensive standpoint. You can now see rotations of safeties where before you could just look at a still picture. Or if you're a defensive player, you could check out the splits and see the motion that you get on the offensive side of the ball. These are all things that you can see now. And probably one of the biggest technologies is the fact that they have communicators in the helmets for the quarterback. So a coach can talk to the quarterback. Also, a coach can talk to the captain or the play caller on the defensive side. So it isn't just one-sided. And fortunately, the communication cuts off at 15 seconds before the ball is snapped, or else you'd have a coach yapping in your ear right up to when the ball is going to be snapped. And I think one of the technologies that we're going to see going forward, because, after all, this whole meeting of ours is about looking forward, is I believe that they're going to put a chip. They have the availability now. They haven't approved it yet, to put a chip in the football so that, for example, when you cross maybe a yard line or when you cross the goal line, you don't have to go to instant replay when you've got 500,000 pounds of people on top of you. If that chip says you crossed it, it's it. It'll eliminate one of the reviews. I think one of the things that's happened in football is obviously everything goes to review. Turnovers go to reviews. Touchdowns go to reviews. And I think as fans, we get tired of the reviews. You know, the challenges, hey, I'm okay with that. But when it comes to reviewing so many different things, it's a problem. But that's some of the technology that's come into the world of sports. I eventually think in baseball, if you watch the World Series, you know, almost everybody, every network has that square where it shows where the ball goes through. Not that you would totally eliminate the home plate umpire, but you're probably going to see that going forward as well. You're going to see that little square maybe dictating balls and strikes. So we'll continue to innovate. We'll continue to use technology to try and make the game more efficient. And one other thing in football, I know they're going to do is they're probably going to be, when people get back in, you may be able to do this on your phone. You're going to be able to bet on every play. You're going to be able to figure out whether it's going to be a first down, whether it's going to be a pass, whether it's going to be a run. That I guarantee you is coming. It's just like go back 10 years, the National Football League was, whoa, no gambling, no gambling. Now it's, heck, we've got a team in Las Vegas, for goodness sake. So, I mean, you couldn't go more the other way. And I think it's good. I think, you know, people want to do that. People actually, we needed football, JT. We needed collegially, we needed football with the abbreviated season in baseball and basketball and hockey. We're trying to get a full season in football.
Yeah, I agree, Joe. I mean, this technology obviously has changed the game for everybody. And you go back to the beginning of what you stated as far as how there's a lot of user error or operator errors. And I think that's what's driving a lot of just industries and why you want to go more automation and why you want those chips and things like that to be more efficient, to provide the user that experience that they're expecting. No more bad calls, none of the sorts that you experience now where I, as a referee or as an umpire, I get to make the decision. And if I make the wrong decision, now I'm the bad guy.
Well, they had one last week in a Tulane football game. Tulane wound up winning a football game, and the conference came out and said, "Yeah, we blew it." Well, you know, you blow something like that. Or let's go more recently. Let's go to the New Orleans Saints with some calls over the last couple of years, not just one, but two. In particular, the game, the one a couple years ago, where it was the Rams. It was obvious pass interference. I mean, the world knew it was pass interference. But yet, you know, it was not something that could be overturned by replay, even though it was human error. But that, you know, how does that affect someone's future? How does that affect a coach's life going forward? And that's the difference between keeping a job and being fired. So, you know, I say, yes, we embrace technology as much as we can, but there's always going to have to be somebody that's responsible for interpreting it and making sure that it's efficient for the need that it's designed for.
Absolutely agree. Absolutely.
You know, I want to say this too. In our conversations that we've had, I don't know how many people know about your background, but the fact that you had your fingernails dirty. You started in this business right with the get-go. I mean, you were out there selling product. You were out there using product, and now you've elevated yourself to a position of leadership. And I think it's just wonderful that someone has the knowledge and experience that you have to be able to be in the position to share it. Because so many times in football, we get people who can't communicate with the players because they don't understand what it's like. It's like a Doug Peterson in Philadelphia. You know, he played the game. You know, you have guys that have played the game at some level, and you've played this game and you understand it. And you understand what everybody's going through out there as well. And I think it's so important. That's what leadership is all about. It's surrounding yourself with great people, giving them the autonomy to be who they can be, and then provide them with the tools they need. That's exactly what Mike Tomlin says about the Pittsburgh Steelers, who, by the way, are undefeated and are going to be a tough football team this year. He said, my job as the coach of this football team and our coaches are to provide our players with the best information and opportunity to be successful. And that's really what you're doing.
Absolutely, Joe. It's chess, not checkers. Absolutely. You want to be great, got to be strategic, got to be forward thinking. So I think we have one more question. I think I have time for one more question. So for me, this is important because as a leader, I think it's beneficial for other leaders to hear it. So what advice would you give a leader who is up and coming, trying to provide that forward thinking mindset that where will we be in the next 5 years? What advice would you give them?
First of all, I would say develop a plan. I think, we have game plans in football all the time. And I haven't seen a bad game plan. Never seen a bad game plan. Just lousy execution. That's all there is to it. I think what you have to do is develop a plan and then find people who are like-minded as you, but yet aren't yes people. You want free thinkers. You want people who bring something to the table. I've always said this about coaches. The most important, leaders in general, the most important part of being a leader is who you surround yourself with. Choosing members of your team is the most important thing. And the other thing is know what you don't know. Not everybody knows. I hate to say this to people at times, but you don't know everything. So surround yourself with people that have knowledge that you don't. I use this as a classic example. Joe Gibbs was my head coach with the Washington football team. We had a defensive coordinator by the name of Richie Pettibone. Joe didn't know anything about defense. He trusted Richie implicitly. We wound up winning a championship. As a matter of fact, little known statistic. In 1983, the Washington, at that time, Redskin football team was plus 43 in the giveaway takeaway ratio. Now, for those that don't understand the terminology of football, we took the ball away from our opponents 43 more times than we gave it up. There isn't anybody that's hit the 20s since then. And that was because of Richie's ability. So understand what you want to do, pick a discipline and a direction. And I love to reference Bill Belichick in this area. I call it E to the third square. What he does in New England, and he's struggling now. Of course, Tom's down in Tampa, so Bill's living with whatever he had to live with up there. But Bill tries to create an environment. So you create an environment that is championship quality. And then you have an expectation. Expect people to. We don't ask enough of ourselves. Everybody sort of gets to a certain point and says, oh, that's enough. No, it's not enough. You don't know how good you can be till you push yourself. There are accounts everywhere where we see, grandmoms picking up bumpers of cars because one of the grandchildren might be stuck or something. We see feats that are unbelievable. We as human beings can accomplish everything. And we're at a time now socially where it's so important that we listen to what everybody's saying. Let's listen. Let's respect and listen one another. And let's move forward and make it a better world for everybody.
Well, Joe, I'll be the first to say that this has been an absolute pleasure. It's a humongous thank you from myself, as well as the Converged User Group, for coming to be a part of our event today. Obviously, in these times, we would love this to be a live event, but unfortunately, we've had to settle for a virtual version, but it has been just as impactful. So I want to say thank you very much for joining us. Look forward to any other speeches you may be doing in the future, and the best for you in the future as well.
JT, thank you. And thank you to the Converged User Group as well for giving me a chance to spend some time with you today. It's been my pleasure.
Wow. Lots of valuable information today. From Anthony at Atlantis, Dubai, with his VxRail story and how VxRail has helped evolve their business, to Suzanne and Chad talking about Kubernetes and how Kubernetes is allowing companies for a faster speed to market, more agility, more efficiency, and also to the legendary Joe Theismann. Joe said a few things that really stuck out to me, to basically help us move forward together, right? 1, write down your goals. Absolutely. It's a no-brainer, right? It's a thing that we say we want to do, but we never do. Write them down. 2, you cannot be successful alone. You definitely have to lean on others to help you in your journey. Just like Converged User Group. That's the reason that our community continues to grow and continues to get stronger. And that's because we lean on each other. I want to say thank you to VMware and Dell for helping sponsor an event today. And on behalf of the Converged Board of Directors, thank you for attending. We wish you and your family a healthy and happy holiday season. Be on lookout for the additional additional programming for 2020 as well as into 2021. We're super excited for some of the things that we will bring to you next year. And thank you again for joining today.